Hi Lorena, good morning.
Hi, Pau, good morning. Ok, Pau, a ver, vamos a compartir la pantalla para ver el review, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so this review is gonna be about the adjective clauses or relative clauses. So the name is the same for both, and we have this. Okay, second, these two ones. Adjective clauses or the other name that it is the relative clauses. Both are the same grammar. We saw this grammar before when we said, for example, that these relative clauses and adjective clauses are the same as the WH questions. So both are the same, but those WH questions are gonna be always at the middle of the sentence. We said that we use who or that when we talk about people, when we want to describe people. We said that we use which or that when we talk about things. After this, we didn't see this, but we use where in order to talk about places. And this other else that it is when in order to talk about time. Okay, so we know this first one. When we describe people, for example, a doctor is a person who helps people. For example, this, because we are describing a person. Is a person who helps people. Or in other case, I can use that helps people. Or I have another one, whom helps people. So when we describe people, we can use these three ones, okay? So who, that, or whom. These three ones for describing people. What happened here when we describe something? So we're gonna use only which or that. For example, that is the dress that, or maybe here, which first, which I like. Or this is the formal way when we use which at the middle, or we can use that I like. Es ese vestido el cual me gusta o que me gusta. Okay? So for describing things or objects. Where? When we talk about places. For example, I can say La Paz is a city. I can put, as I am talking about places, okay, I will use where. La Paz is a city where you can, for example, where you can visit many touristic places. Okay, so La Paz is a city, as we are talking about a place where you can visit many touristic places. In this case, when we talk about places, we could use that else. But this is really informal when we use that, okay? For example, La Paz is a city that you can visit many touristic places. The most common used in this relative, it is where. So you can realize that you are using a place. So automatically you are gonna use the WH question with where. And finally, we have this when, that it talks about time. For example, I can say summer that it's a time from the year. Summer is the time when you can go to beaches. Okay, es el tiempo. So as we are mentioning the time, I can use when. Cuando tú puedes ir a las playas. Okay, when you can go to beaches. So we're gonna use in this practice of relative clauses these 4 relative clauses. Who, that, whom, people, which, that, things, where, that, places, and when for time. Okay, so here we can say, we can see some other examples. For example, in questions, is Talia Santos the reporter? So as we're talking about Talia, who broke the story? So I use who. Now, in answers or statements, she's the one that I worked with. So in this case, it's for people too, that as an informal way, so it's okay. We are staying people. Talia is the person who did the most to help me. Talia is the person that did the most to help me. I can use whom or, okay, in some cases, whom means a quien too. Okay, so I can use both. This year, the most valuable player award goes to an athlete whom we all admire. So how are we going to translate whom here? Este año, la más valiosa, el más valioso premio de jugadores va al atleta a quien nosotros todos admiramos. So in some cases, in most cases, we're going to translate whom as a quien, okay? So we could use that or which when we talk about things, okay? So I can say I turned down the job offer that I got a nice bid. I turned down the job offer which I got a news bid. So as I'm talking about job, that it is like an object, I will use only that or which. For places, we said that we use where. So in questions, is there some place where we can go for a minute? As we're talking about the place, where, okay? The most used. When is not so much used here, as you can see. And we have when for time. Or maybe we could use that else. In everything we can use that. But the same, this is not very used. It seems like it was just yesterday when you asked me to turn up the volume. So as we're talking about yesterday, we're talking about time. So we use when. Okay, or that as an informal way. So after this, in some cases, we can use In the test, you are going to find, as the other practice, some blank spaces, like you have to leave out the objective pronoun. It means that it's not necessary to put a relative pronoun because the sentence has sense. But when the sentence doesn't have sense, of course, we have to complete with which of these ones, okay? For example, here, there is something that I need to discuss with you. This is with relative, that. In this part, we are using a relative too. It's hard to find a time when we can talk. In this case, for places, that's the use bar where Nick Crawford liked to go. If we use without a relative question, here, for example, that's the use bar. Nick Crawford liked to go. In this part, we are not using the relative clause, but in this case, it's necessary because if we translate, the sentence doesn't have sense. Ese es el bar, o el jugo de bar. Nick Crawford le gustaba ir. No, it's like missing que o a quién, okay, or where, because we're talking about the use bars. Okay, so do we remember this grammar, Pau?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so do you have any other question about this grammar?
Yes, maybe with the first, who, that, and whom. Whom is very, very formal, but really?
Yes, it's really formal, but it is used in most cases when you want to translate a quién. Okay, a quién. Instead of who or that, both are gonna be only quién or qué. In this case, we use whom in order to say a quién, because some sentences doesn't have sense if we only put who, and the translation doesn't have sense.
Okay.
Okay, so for example, I can put here, for example, I can say that is the, for example, I can say that is the person, okay? If I put who I love, it doesn't have sense because esa es la persona quien yo amo. No. If I use with this, that is the person whom I love. In this case, the sentence has more sense. Esa es la persona a quien yo amo. Okay, so in those cases, you could use whom when you are gonna translate it as a quien. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect, Pau. So let's go to the platform to do the exercises. Here and okay. So relative clauses, expansion 1. Perfect, excellent, Pau. So let's go next. Okay, I think it's number 7 because if you use whom, it is translating like a quien. So which is the correct one?
Um, who?
Yes, only who, because, well, yo pienso que Talia es la única quien debería estar hablando, quien te debería estar hablando sobre Chicago. But if we put whom, it is a quien. Okay. So always we have to be careful in this word. A quien or only quien. Okay, so let's try it again. Okay, perfect, Pau. Excellent. Now, for the following grammar, I will share you this grammar. It's not complicated because we're talking about auxiliary verbs for emphasize. Give me a second. Okay. So we have this. The auxiliary verbs emphasizing. So as we can see here, we're talking about auxiliary verbs. Okay. And these auxiliary verbs we're gonna use for only emphasize. Okay. When we want to make the sentence really or more a little bit stronger. Okay. And what is this? These auxiliary verbs emphasizing. The first one, it is when we talk about simple present. As we can remember, in simple present, we have two auxiliaries, do and does, right? But we remember that we said that in affirmative statements, we can't use do and does. Only in affirmatives because we use these two auxiliaries in negatives and questions. But now it's gonna change. Why? Because if I want to emphasize something, some statement, I will use these auxiliaries in affirmative sentences. So, for example, if we talk about do, I can talk subject, do, the verb in base form, and the complement. For example, I love, I do love to eat pizza, for example. So I am using my subject, my auxiliary do, my verb love, and my complement to eat pizza. So we can remember that we said, but this is impossible. We can't use the auxiliary in affirmative sentences. Yes, but if I say like this, I love to eat pizza only, it is only like a normal statement. I love to eat pizza. but that's it. But if I say, I do love to eat pizza, it means that I am saying like, I really, really, really love eat pizza. Okay, so this is an emphasis in order to make the sentence stronger. The other is gonna happen the same with does. The verb that we're gonna use, it's gonna be in base form too. For example, she does love animals, for example. As you can remember, with the difference between these, it is like she loves animals. But if I use with does in order to emphasize, the only thing that I will use is the verb in base form. Why? Because I am using the auxiliary. So she does love animals. She loves animals. She loves animals as a normal statement. For emphasizing, she does love animals. And finally, we have the third one. When we talk about simple past. And we said that the auxiliary for simple past is did. So I will use the structure, the subject, did, but as I am using the auxiliary, I will use only the verb in base form. And finally, the complement. So I can say, I did go to the concert. So this is for emphasizing. It's like I really like to go to the concert, for example. I did go to the concert, emphasizing. But if I say I went to the concert, it is a normal sentence, okay, in simple past. So remember that we have these three emphasizing auxiliary verbs, but in all of them, the structures or the auxiliaries that we said that it's not necessary to use in affirmatives, it's gonna be necessary now, but for making emphasizing. But always with these structures, with these auxiliaries, we're gonna use only the verb in base form. Okay, so this is for emphasizing with auxiliary. Do you have maybe some question until here, Pao?
And we just use with in the simple present and the simple past, or
Yes, yes. This auxiliary for emphasizing, it is only for do, does, or did. Okay. What happened with the rest, for example? With the rest, it is easy. Why? Because if we want to emphasize, okay, if we want to emphasize, we're gonna use like this. We're gonna use the words like very, really, for example, with verb to be or present perfect. So this is gonna be our emphasize. Very, really, and we can use like so, to, okay? So these are for emphasize. But as we are talking about only about auxiliary, we have only these three auxiliaries that we use. This is the first one in order to emphasize. And the second way that we can use emphasizing with the rest of the grammars, it's not using contractions. So, for example, if I want to emphasize something, I'm not gonna say Paola, for example. I'm gonna say I am Paola. Okay. So not emphasize, not contracted, it's emphasizing. If I want to say in a negative, for example, I do not like ice cream, for example. So if I don't contract, it is emphasizing. If I contract, it's a normal sentence. So this is the two ways for the rest of the grammars for using emphasize. Okay. Do we have some questions, Pau?
No, it's okay.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna go to, you can take it a picture if you didn't take notes, and we're gonna go to the exercises, okay? So you're gonna see there how you are gonna put it this.
Okay.
Okay, but always remember if you put do, does, or did in the affirmative sentences, always the verb in base. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the platform. Okay, auxiliary verbs and one. Okay. I think it's only one, right? And this, for example, it's not did. Of course, if we see the complement yesterday, we can realize that it is past. But if we translate like it did seems like yesterday, parece como ayer, but it is not the past. Okay, so this is present as we are talking. Only we are comparing. Yes. Okay, right. Excellent. So let's go next. So here depends on the conversation you have to complete, right? Depends on the conversation. For example, I thought you said that Amy called you, and we're talking about past. I thought you said. So what auxiliary verb do we use? Because Tali is talking in past. So
She did call me.
she?
She did call me.
Yes, yes, excellent. So it's gonna be depending on the conversation. Okay, Pau, in the last one, for example, it says, my grandmother always said. So we are gonna always be focused on the first auxiliary. So as we're talking about past, because this is the first, we have to respect in past. And would, it is like the second auxiliary that we have. Okay?
In this case, it, it was did.
Yes, it was did. Perfect. So with this grammar, we finish all unit 4 and all the model. So now I will assign you, okay, the quizzes. Give me a second. Mm, okay, while This one. Quizzes for and final model. 2 tests. Okay. Okay, it's gonna be here. Okay, so now it is assigned. So you have time to finish. Is it, if it's possible, until Sunday, tomorrow, or if you don't have time, it's gonna be until Monday. Okay, Pau?
Okay.
Okay, Pau. So with this, we finish all the modules. So I think that the person who is in charge about this, it's gonna talk you about if it's necessary to have like 8-hour ELs, or if it's not, you can go to the group classes, okay? For TOEFL
Oh,
test.
okay. After this, I have to take the session of TOEFL. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. The session of TOEFL, and this is in groups. So I think that between today, tomorrow, or on Monday, as soon as I have all your scores, they are gonna tell you what is gonna be next. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Pau, so see you. Bye bye. Take care a lot.
Okay, Lorena. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, Lorena.